Welcome back to the Florida Roundtable. At this point, we've got pretty pressing information to share with you. It's all about the lawmakers and Biden calling on them to extend the national eviction moratorium for another 8 months. Joining me now, Caleb Kruckenberg, Litigation Counsel for the NCLA. That's the New Civil Liberties Alliance. So you say, Caleb, and welcome to the show, I should say. Welcome.
Thank you.
You say that they are using the CDC as well as some of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services are using the COVID pandemic emergency as an excuse. Can you explain a little bit further about what's going on?
Yeah, so back in September, the CDC issued an order that said basically that it is a federal crime for anyone to get an eviction order if they own property and they have a tenant who's not paying rent. And that is not something that the CDC should be saying, period. I mean, the CDC is a public health organization. Usually they do things like talk about vaccines and ways to keep ourselves healthy. And instead what they're doing is they're making a decision about housing policy for state court.
The thing is, they're pushing this moratorium so far back. We've got this weird housing bubble that's at least happening down here in Florida, where there's more of a buyer's market, but then you've got these folks that are renting that can't pay their rent. The landlords are trying to figure out what to do, and it's pretty much a big mess. So what do we do, Caleb?
Well, it is a big mess. And I think a lot of these, a lot of landlords out there who own property, and they pay mortgages on these. And when they have tenants that don't pay rent for months and months on end, I mean, we're talking about since last March, they're going to lose those houses. They're going to be repossessed. They're going to be taken over by the bank. And there's going to be long-term consequences in the housing market. So what I've done, what my organization's done, is we filed a lawsuit. We sued the CDC saying they don't have this authority and it's unconstitutional for them to try to deny people their day in court with an administrative order.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the CDC sets guidelines for health. How does this have anything to do with housing?
Well, what the CDC has said is there's a law that was passed in the 1940s that says that in certain emergencies, the CDC can do things like impound diseased goods or livestock, or even quarantine people when they're sick. And the CDC has said, well, this allows us actually to do literally anything we can think of. As long as we can make an argument, it could possibly help benefit the health of the public. So what they've said is this gives us the power to say that state courts can't operate. And it's, in fact, a federal crime for them to try to operate. And, that's really unprecedented. There's really never been a situation like this in our nation's history where we have an agency doing something like this.
Well, and this is what happens sometimes when you get these old rulings on the books that were effective back when it made sense. And they're pulling this out of nowhere. I mean, when was the last time that anyone went around door to door and put a quarantine sign on the door? And yet at this antiquated rule, all of a sudden they're saying, oh, we can extend the evictions and such. This is not a good precedent.
And the real problem, like you said, is that it keeps getting extended. They issued the order back in September. It was supposed to end at the end of the year, December 31st. And then the Biden administration just extended that order through the end of March. And as you said at the very beginning, there's conversations extended even further. And I have clients in this lawsuit who they haven't had their tenants pay them rent since February 2020. They're going to cover the rent for more than a year as it stands now, and it could continue. I mean, this is really unsustainable for a lot of people around the country.
Yeah, and down here in Florida, we have a lot of folks who are snowbirds who rent out their houses during the summertime, and we've got people that are locked in that haven't been paying any rent. So now you've got a mortgage that's not getting paid as well. And this is not good for the country. So where are we on the lawsuit and how can I jump on?
So unfortunately, we sought an order in a district court in Georgia to try to stop the order. The court denied our preliminary request, and we've appealed to the 11th Circuit. So right now that is pending in the 11th Circuit. We're asking the court to step in, stop the CDC order, and let courts operate the way they were supposed to, the way states have envisioned them.
We're speaking with Caleb Kruckenberg, Litigation Counsel for the New Civil Liberties Alliance, talking about the CDC as as well as the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, using the pandemic emergency as an excuse to continue and extend the eviction moratorium. And obviously, as you learned from Caleb, there's a lawsuit out there now. It's an appeal. Is there anything that the common person, that you and I and the other folks listening, can do to help this along or to bring more focus to it?
Well, I think part of it is we have to educate people. A lot of people don't even know this has happened, and they don't know what's happening until they're faced with it and they're faced with the consequences. And the other thing I'd just say is this is not the only case I'm involved in, because unfortunately, a lot of agencies like to do things like this. This is just an example of the kind of things that are happening right now by administrative agencies, particularly because of COVID. There's a lot of overreach right now. It's affecting a lot of people. CDC has picked winners and losers here. That's not what we want out of our government.
It's been awesome talking to you, Caleb. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us and explaining what's going on and the overreach. Caleb Kruckenberg, litigation counsel for the NCLA. I hope you stop back to the Florida Roundtable again soon, Caleb. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.